delegate who needs another stamp on his or her delegate card in order to qualify for voting. You can get that stamp upstairs. You don't have to leave the building. So anyone who needs the second stamp, you can get it now. We move on now to motion 104, the Monaghan branch, Cavan Monaghan. Have we a proposer?
Chairman, delegates, Ian McArdle, standing proudly before you for the first time at the Labour conference on behalf of the embryonic Monaghan branch of the Labour Party. There's no need for that. Very embryonic, I have to emphasise. But proud to move motion 104. Delegates, as we all know, this party was founded in 1912 by the trade union movement to provide a means for working people to bring about social and economic justice. The founding fathers, Connolly and Larkin, had an aspiration to close the gap between what ought to be and what is. This aspiration was the driving force for their efforts to organise working men and women in Dublin, which ultimately led to the lockout in 1913. Central to this dispute was the right to organise and the right to unionise. And 100 years later, we're still trying to close this gap in employment rights between what ought to be and what is. Since 1913, almost every developed Western economy has provided legislative protection for the right to organise and collective bargaining, including the United States. Shamefully, Ireland so far has refused to do so. There is a commitment in the current programme for government to ensure that Ireland is compliant with the judgments of the European Courts of Human Rights. But based on the comments of Minister Bruton, this Act will not deliver a legislative protection for the right to organise. The exercise of this right will remain voluntary. This, delegates, is a fundamental right, which in the current voluntary system, it cannot be guaranteed to be delivered. We have a constitutional right to become members of a trade union, but we do not have an equal right to be represented collectively. And increasingly, private sector employers are quite happy to remind our aspiring members, of course you can be members of a union, just don't ever seek to be represented by one. This is increasingly what it means to have a voluntarist system. A voluntarist system, delegates, requires good faith on both sides. And I can tell you from bitter experience as a union organiser that this is, in the current climate, in short supply. Never mind the prospect of collective representation, trade unions are increasingly being forced to fight for the right to represent workers individually. The centenary of 1913 represents a unique opportunity for us to close the gap our founding fathers spoke of. Surely Labour, as the party of Labour, is uniquely positioned to honour the legacy of Connolly and Larkin in the best interests of all working men and women. Delegates, without the support of working men and women, the Labour Party has no substance. But without the right to organise, working men and women have no voice. Labour must deliver. I commend the motion.